Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Cynical Marketers, episode 47. Thank you for joining us. If you're here, Black Friday is just around the corner, and that's what we're going to talk
Mhm.
about here. And really, for me, it's kind of the death of Black Friday, really. We're not just talking Black
Yep.
Friday, right? Nat and
Mhm.
I are both been in e-commerce for a very long time, so Black Friday used to really be a thing, and I just don't think it
Yeah.
is anymore, right?
I definitely I think it's lost its plot, as the kids say.
Yeah. It used to be you would wait and wait, and like, when we were both at Grunt Style, you know, we'd come in like
Mm.
Thanksgiving night. You'd have Thanksgiving Day with everybody in the family, but hey, we're coming in, and we used to come into work like that evening of Thanksgiving to begin like that Black Friday sale, like when we would sometimes launch at like 10 p.m. on Thanksgiving or 11, but like it was our Super Bowl time, that Black Friday, Cyber
Yeah.
Monday weekend, and then it just kind of kicked off all of the holiday sales. But so many brands now, it's just leaking and leaking and leaking, and everybody wants to be the first. And it's just a fight now
Yeah.
over who's the first to get it. And I think
It's
brands
embarrassing for the
recognize that
brands.
consumers out there, I think so, but I think brands recognize consumers have probably a limited amount of dollars they're going to spend for Christmas. And if I don't
Right.
go after it first, somebody else might get all their money and then I don't get anything. So they're pushing into October for some people launching early Black Friday, right? And it's just silly. It's just not a thing anymore, right?
It's been really hard for
Yeah.
me to watch this year, and I posted about this on LinkedIn a few days ago, I think last Friday or Thursday or Friday. Some of my favorite brands, and also some of the brands that I worked on over the last 6 years in my career on the agency side, um, they've already started their sales. And it's a little bit hard for me, as somebody who's done marketing for these companies, to understand why all of a sudden they're starting, weeks earlier than they have been. Like, for example, there's one brand specifically that I got an email, and it was like early Black Friday starts now. And I had supported that brand for the last 3 Black Fridays. And I know that we never ever started a sale the first week of November, right? And how we did sales
Yeah.
previously was very strategic in order for them to be profitable. Different parts of their business had different discounts. It was all tiered. It was all really set to make sure that the holiday is profitable. Because if we're being honest, for some folks, it's not, because they feel forced to discount very deeply during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and they kind of forget that they still, at the end of that weekend, need to be profitable. So seeing this brand start sending emails that early, having worked on it for the last 3 years, I almost felt like my heart hurt a little bit, as silly as that sounds, because I was like, you know what? That to me is a glaring red flag. It's like a parade of red flags for every email that they've sent since the beginning of their sale, that they're struggling for revenue. That tells me that there is a genuine struggle for revenue. And maybe part of it, Mike, is what you just said, which is brands are trying to beat other brands so that the consumer dollars go to them instead of somebody else. But I think the consumers are getting super, super smart now. And they're tracking your prices regularly. And they know that a lot of people like jack up prices, especially on Amazon. They'll jack up prices and then discount them and so on. And I don't see the benefit of starting your sales 3 weeks early. Then what do you do on the back end of that
Hmm.
on Cyber Monday? You follow that through another 2 or 3 weeks? This strategy makes no sense to me. So you're
Right.
discounting for nearly 2 months.
And a lot of times with these sales and things, you're you're just moving up a purchase and you're just booking sales a little bit earlier than you would have. How many of you are you acquiring new customers really? The strategies on discounting have changed so much in the last couple of years where I used to be, yeah, like you have to do some of these things. And now you're like, you really need to be much more strategic about it because people, I don't think it's as much of you know, a trigger for people or an inducement because they get discounts everywhere. So you're no different, you know. Oh, okay. And if you always have some sort of an evergreen discount, like what's the value of your product? You're telling people that You tell people that we are overpriced and really what we're comfortable selling at is this discounted rate, but we put it at this so it looks like it's a bigger discount. And sure, there's plenty of people that works on, but
I feel like the consumer is exhausted though. I think, and just like there's like a fatigue to those discounts, right? And this strategy of, and we've seen it some last year, definitely more last year than the year before, but it's this nonsense of like you said, Mike, Black Friday doesn't really feel exclusive anymore, right? Like you kind of know you're not going to get your biggest discount then. And then if you start early November and you carry through mid-December, then you have like 6 weeks of here's 25% off and 30 and 40 and 50 last chance. And the consumer is like, what the heck? You know, that strategy drives me nuts when people like do a discount for Black Friday and then even a deeper discount on Cyber Monday. Like, why are you setting that precedent that your customer is going to know, wait, why should I even shop on Black Friday? I should just wait until Cyber Monday. They're going to discount it even more. These new strategies don't
mhm.
make any sense to me. And you had brought up Grunt Style, and with Grunt Style, we really were thoughtful on how we spend that 5 days, like that Thursday night going into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? We dropped new product that was exclusive for that time period, right? That you couldn't
Yeah.
get this thing any other time besides Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We used to have exclusive discounts, you know, on volume and on certain products and on, you know, like there were things that were happening in like flash sales for some of our popular styles. And it was very thought out, very planned out, and very for the benefit, really for the customer to continue staying engaged from Black Friday into Cyber Monday, right? Like as a marketer on our side, as a business and a strategy is to keep them, if they're a fan of yours, give them something to come back to in that 5 day period, right? I don't think brands do that anymore. It's just blanket, here's 30% off on Black Friday, and blanket, here's 40% off on Cyber Monday. And, you know, it just doesn't, it has no thought process behind it. I just don't know. I just like you're beating up the customer with the discount, like you said, essentially saying like a product isn't really worth the full price. It's just this deeply discounted thing. And here, we'll give that to you at 50% off on, you know, Cyber Monday. And by the way, it's not just Cyber Monday. It will be that like it's crazy.
We had it last month and now we're putting on sale this month. And then the people who bought it last month are like, "Well, why did I pay full price or only at your I signed up on your email list and you gave me your stupid email 10%, like, but now like everything's on sale here." That's when people are like, I'm just going to wait.
It's become such a blatant chase for revenue dollars though. It's almost embarrassing to see some really big, and I'm not talking about, when I say big brands, I'm not talking about like Nike and those guys. Like that's a whole, they play on a whole different level. I'm talking about businesses that are small that make a couple million a year, you know, and do like direct to consumer clothing side, you know, skincare, whatever it is. It's become like that race to the consumer dollar, like you said at the top of the podcast, Mike. And it's been interesting because I think it's a race amongst the brands, and I don't think the consumer cares. That's where I'm like seeing, I almost glaringly to me watching some of the brands that I have worked on sending out Cyber Monday emails yesterday. You know, we're recording this on a Tuesday. So, you know, it's just, it seems so desperate. It seems just this, like you do not care about your customer experience. That's what it tells me, is that your retention isn't strong enough throughout the year. So you're relying so heavily on this back end of the year, using Black Friday, Cyber Monday as an excuse to run as many sales as you can. So you do that last ditch effort for revenue. Like it's almost like what does your retention look like for the rest of the year? It's these starting 30-40% off the first week of November to me is like a cry for help. I just want to be like, is your business okay? Like what are you doing? Like why, you know, you're not running these like deals because you want to treat your customer. That's never the thing. And a customer is savvy enough to know this. I feel like, you know, you're just basically saying like, hey, we need money. Like give us money now. Like, please don't go give it to anybody else. It's so desperate. It devalues your brand almost. And I'm sure people want to, everybody, of course, wants to chase revenue and you want to do well and you want to be successful. But what's the cost to it? What's that customer experience like if I'm getting beat up with 30% off for a month and a half, starting in November, going into mid-December? And then you do year-end closeout sales, which then discount the same stuff you had on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, even more. Just never ends.
As a partner, I'd been at the partner level in a CMO, so I had to deal also on the operations side and see something that marketers don't often think of is the impact then of all these sales on your operations. So you go through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and you do these massive discounts, which eat into your gross profit margins, right? And
Right.
people will get down to, almost zero gross profit. But then they're not thinking too, like, okay, so just on a purchase, you're at near zero gross profit, but you're doing all these extra sales now that's going to tax your operations. However, are you making stuff or doing whatever your production? You're going to have increased labor costs there as well. You need more people to get all this stuff done, but you need more people to get stuff done that you just sold at less profit. So your costs are
Yeah.
going to go up quite a bit too, but you didn't sell it a way to actually make that make sense. And then people are like, well, it's an acquisition strategy. So yeah, I'm going to acquire these people and they're expensive at the end of the year, but we'll make it back up, Q1, maybe Q2 next year. And you're like, will you? Like these are
Will
people who could
you?
have bought this stuff earlier in the year, but they didn't. They waited for a discount. So are they
Mm-hmm.
loyal and committed customers to you right now, or are they just discount shoppers and they will never buy from you unless you're going to run another similar sale at the same profit
Right.
margin for you, right? You're acquiring the discount shoppers probably, right? And if you're looking at
Ugh.
lifetime value, you're crazy to begin with, but you have so
Yeah.
many other problems
That's
it
a separate
causes you,
discussion.
right? And I learned this lesson, because it causes you operational problems that people don't think about then that feed back to you because you might oversell, you know. You
Ooh,
you
your
hammer
favorite
your
word, Mike?
production, which I used to say
Yeah.
never existed, right?
There is no such thing as overselling. I remember that. It is a lesson you had to learn the hard way.
And that was too on our side, chasing a revenue goal. And you're chasing a revenue goal. You're like, hey, look, I got to hit that number or I might not have a job. So I get it, ops. Like, I understand this is hard for you guys, but it's not really a me problem, But it
Right.
was because I was a partner.
But
So
it becomes a you problem real freaking
it
quick.
becomes a you
Yeah.
problem because we had to deal with the customer issues then on if you were late or you missed Christmas for
Hmm.
orders and stuff. So it
Oh gosh,
causes
yeah.
you more operational problems to just all of a sudden hammer your business at Black Friday, Cyber Monday too, because nobody carries the labor capacity to deal with this spike now of sales. So what do? Do you bring in short-term labor? Because we used to deal with this all the time at Grunt Style too. So what do? Like you hire temps, but you got to train them. They're worthless. They don't know what they're doing. And when we hired temps, they all came in and so many were stealing and it was
Yeah.
sleeping and it was just bad,
Yeah. It
you
was a
know.
mess.
Um, or you try to do it with the team you've got and you're like, we'll try to figure it out. And then like we used to go back and I worked in production and shipping every
Yes, we
Christmas because
pressed we pressed shirts
yeah,
and packed them,
we'd
shipped
work during
them,
the
and did
day and
all
then
the
after five
things.
o'clock,
Yep.
after five, I'm heading back into there. What do you guys need me to do? And I usually worked the bagger and
Yep.
I liked to bag
Yeah.
shirts or we're in shipping, helping pick orders and do stuff, right? But you're just trying to figure it out and you're just hammering your ops. And then at less profitable sales, it just doesn't make sense.
The thing for us too was, though, it was a very unique time that, for those listening that we're referencing about Grunt Style, we both worked at Grunt Style. This was, yeah, like 2016, 2017, 2018, holiday seasons. Neither one of us was there past that. So, but it was such a unique time for us because at the time we were a small enough business where everybody that worked there believed in the mission of the business and they actually wanted to help. a lot of us worked in ops and worked out. We were salaried employees that were not getting paid for that overtime, right? But we worked because this is something that we valued our customers being taken care of. And what I see a lot now is that that isn't really the case. And when people say, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, oh, you're going to get a lot of new traffic and a lot of new customers. Are they really new customers though? Because the way that Meta works during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and generally speaking, November and December, your cost for acquisition skyrockets. So those same ads you were running like over summer and in August and September are now going to cost you, and I'm just making this up, I'm not an acquisition person, but probably what I've seen from reporting, like 2 or 3 times more than what they normally cost you. So you're acquiring a new customer at 3 times the cost, right? And you're selling them something that is already not profitable or has a slim, tiny little margin, and you're blowing up your ops costs. You're operating at a loss. And if that's what you want to do and if you think this is beneficial for you, great. The reality, though, for me, Mike, and it's been like this, I think, for the last 20 years, no matter what company I worked in, retention carries Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And if you are not nurturing your lists, if you're not doing a good job staying connected in email and SMS, and all of a sudden you start bombarding people during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and they haven't heard from you for like a month and a half prior to that, you're gonna kill your lists. And I've seen this happen. All of a sudden I started getting like an increased volume of emails from a company that I worked in like 6-7 years ago. And they've been hammering Black Friday, Cyber Monday for the last 2 weeks. You are just like, what are you doing? Like at this point, I don't want to see another email. Like you're starting to send me 2 emails a day, 2 weeks ahead of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I don't want this in my inbox. This is a lot.
Yep.
And so like, you're going to start losing people. People are going to start unsubscribing. You run a risk of just, if you're not doing retention properly throughout the rest of the year, you're running a risk of like destroying your lists during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And I see it happen with small businesses all the time. They'll email when they remember, and then Black Friday, Cyber Monday comes, and it's like 2 emails a day and like 3 SMS, 1 SMS a day or
Yep.
2 SMS a day. And like, you are like, wait a second, I haven't heard from you in a minute. So like the only time you need me now is when you're desperate for revenue. It's such a bad customer experience. Like no one seems to care about the customer experience anymore. It's shocking to me. I still don't understand this. I feel like it's deteriorated over the last couple of years for
The
sure.
why behind that is mostly, and my belief on that is because mostly that's pushed by agencies, because agencies
Yeah.
don't care about your customer experience. They have to hit a revenue number or you're going to fire them. So they don't care. I don't care if people are mad. I don't care. I don't care about those people.
And as somebody who's worked in an agency for the last like 3 years, I can absolutely confirm that. That's totally how it was at Noggin. We had revenue numbers. We were tracked on our revenue numbers starting November 1st. And for every single one of our clients that we supported, and we had to hit revenue numbers. And revenue numbers were decided, by the way, by our leadership, who was absolutely not equipped to decide those revenue numbers. And then it's easy for them to come on a call and sell this ginormous revenue number to a client, and the client is going to get excited, right? But at the end of the day, the agency isn't taking customer service calls. They're not dealing with having to replace something that you couldn't ship, or chargebacks because you couldn't ship stuff on time, or, like you said, Mike, like things not getting there for Christmas in time for Christmas when you order, on Thanksgiving. Your agency isn't doing any of that. So when they come in and tell you, hey, by the way, let's, our infamous, let's 10x your business for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, be so concerned about that. Like, don't buy into those numbers. I remember Noggin just putting out a spreadsheet with like absurd numbers for every client. Like that I, in some instances, was like embarrassed to share with clients because I was like, there is no way they're going to hit this number. And telling them that
Yeah.
there is a potential for it is insanity.
Who handles customer service? This used to be a fight for me, and it always is too when I'm a CMO anywhere, as a fractional CMO even. Like the customer service team, because I've always managed that. So you're always very concerned about that. And you try to stress that to the other teams who don't deal with it, and they make decisions where you're like, customer service is going to have to deal with that. You understand that? And we're like, what? And then
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, well, I mean, not really a me problem. I'm not going to be the one getting yelled at. So you're like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
You have to take that into account, or you're going to go work a shift. Hey, ops manager or, decision maker, if you want to do that, not a problem, but you're going to work a shift in customer service after. And just, you need to feel the impact of your decisions sometimes, you know? We'll do it. We'll do what you say, but you have to feel the impact of those decisions. So that's something I believe in too, is decision makers have to be tied to the impacts of their decisions, or they should not have that much input on it. Especially when it comes to a customer. God, that was my role at Grunstyle. Like, hey, if you don't deal with customers, you don't get to make customer decisions. If you don't have to
Yeah.
deal with what you're telling someone, our ops guys, poor Dave, oh, you got to go tell that custom guy we're not going to be able to deliver on time because
Yeah.
we got too busy. Dave, they have a Veterans Day race with 5,000 people on Veterans Day. They have to have it by that day. It's not okay to be late.
Yep.
They ordered it in July, and you said
Yeah.
no problem. Now we're so busy, right? And you're like, well, we got to push that one. Like, you can't.
You
You
can't.
call him.
Yeah.
You call that guy then.
Yep.
You call that guy
Oh
then.
gosh, I
You're not going to
remember
just go
some of
tell the
those
sales guy
things.
he's got to figure it out. Like, poor
Yeah.
Dave. I know, but
Poor Dave.
all right.
I don't know whatever happened to Dave, but yeah, I mean, it's just to me like if we can tell small businesses anything about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is I would say, look, like if your business success, if your year success hinges on November and December, you're doing something wrong. Right? Like, and I feel like you need to really reevaluate your business because I think the consumers are getting savvier. We've talked about this a ton, right? The consumers are getting savvier. They know, that you are literally, like I said, crying out for help and chasing revenue. You're not doing them favors by doing discounts, and you're not doing them any favors by doing an early email subscriber only deal 3 weeks before Black Friday. They can read through that. It is genuinely like a call, again, a cry for help. So I feel like, your Black Friday, Cyber Monday should be super exclusive and it should be super tight. And it should be the time where maybe you drop something that is an exclusive product for that time frame. And you don't chase the discounts of 30 off, 40 off, 50 off. Like, have an actual strategy. Don't, put out things that are going to cause discount fatigue for people. Your audience is just going to get tired of like a million emails that are telling them a different percentage off every single day. Like, have an actual strategy,
Yep.
but don't ever put your business in a position to rely solely on Black Friday, Cyber Monday to be successful. That to me is just an insane strategy. I feel like start fixing things year long. Make sure your retention is good. Make sure your acquisition is good. Like Mike said, make sure that your ops can support whatever insanity you plan on doing during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Don't run your business into the ground over trying to compete with other brands. You don't even know anything about their ops. You don't know how brand X may be doing 40% off and you think that's who you need to compete with, but they may be doing that at a loss. You don't know if they're 6 months away from closing their doors. Do what makes sense for your business. If you have a product and you have a service that the customer loves and they're a fan of, they'll come to you on Black Friday or any other time of the year. I feel so strongly about this. I don't think you should ever just, like operate at a loss during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. That strategy makes no sense to me. That's my advice for small businesses.
All right. There we go, everybody. Black Friday. It's just not a thing anymore, we don't think. That was
No,
another
it's
outstanding episode. If you're still here, we appreciate it. End of year is coming on strong, believe it or not. So
yeah,
we'll be talking more
crazy.
about this kind of stuff and end of year behaviors, marketing, and then how do you lead into next year then? What do you do after all of this stuff? So
Yeah.
lots of
We
exciting
kicked this
episodes coming
podcast
up.
off with We kicked this podcast off in January with the Black Friday Cyber Monday recap in 2024.
Yeah.
And now we're just, we're going to be talking more about that. And like Mike said, like post Black Friday Cyber Monday and prep into the new year. So stick
Yep.
with us. We've got some cool stuff coming up.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Check us out next week when we go.